Hello? I was just saying you can't come in just saying please help me sir, I'm Indian, man. Come on, I can't be doing that right after I finish working. I need to relax a little. Give me a sec. Do we want to do Astrobot or do we want to do Mario Kart? Astrobot or Mario Kart? What are we feeling? 1 for Astrobot, 2 for Mario Kart. What are we feeling? 1 for Astrobot, 2 for Mario Kart. One for Astrobot, 2 for Mario Kart. I kind of like Astrobot. I mean Mario Kart. Okay, fine, Astrobot, fine. I already have it set up anyways. You caught me. You caught me. Guys, I climbed the leaderboards on getcracked.io. I'm like 2nd place now. Some dude that's... Wait, I said 1 for Astrobot and 2 for Mario Kart, right? 1 for Astrobot, 2 for Mario Kart. Everybody's thought 1 was for Astrobot, right? Yeah, okay. What's my opinion on the current tech layoffs? I have no idea. I'm not really focusing on other people or the industry right now. I'm just focusing on myself and my work. One sec, I'm figuring this out. There we go. Whoops, nope. The #1 person on Get Cracked isn't even a paying member. That's how free my website is. My website's so free that you can be first and not even be a paying member. What do we want to do for call-ins? Do we want to do like grill session or do we want to do chill session? One for grill, 2 for chill. Grill session? Oh, but guys, if we do a grill section, then everybody on TikTok's gonna cry. So because of them, guys, we can't be doing that, you know? Everybody on TikTok that thinks I don't need to know what an integer is gonna cry, man. We can't be doing that to these people. What is Get Cracked? That's my website, man. Google getcracked.io. Can you guys hear the game? Tell me if you can hear the game. Let's see if I can. I can't hear it. Uh-oh. Why can't I hear the game? Oh, maybe I muted it. It's hardcore. One sec. We'll do a grill session. Why can't I hear my own game? Let me check the sound stuff. Oh, no, that's right, for my microphone. You guys can't hear the game, right? I really like God of War Ragnarok. I can't hear literally anything. Let's see, can I hear YouTube?
Disclaimer that could...
Yeah, I can hear YouTube. Okay, I need to make my Elgato. Right click. Sounds. Playback. There we go. Properties. Levels. Oh, that's really loud. What the heck? Elgato. Getcracked.io. Can you guys hear the game? One if you guys can hear the game. Why can't I hear the game though? Hey Hamza, nice to see you here, man. I made a frickin' payment already to this stupid motorcycle insurance. They keep saying I didn't make a payment. Shit, give me a sec. Settings, audio. No. I don't want to play a game I can't hear. Sounds. Okay, that works. Whoa, 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 whoa. One sec, one sec. Okay. Shit, okay. Now you guys hear that really loud. Give me a sec. while I play around with this. Okay, that should be good. All right, I'm going to start taking call-ins. Now, guys, please don't call in if you are a high school student looking to learn C++. This isn't the right platform for you, okay? I have people calling in saying, "Hey, I'm in kindergarten. How do I break into Quant?" Now's not your time. Let me see if I can just change the stream bitrate. How do I change the bitrate? Oh, bitrate. Okay. It said it wants 13,000. Okay, members get priority. So if you're a channel member, you get priority to call in. I'm gonna put a link in the Gmeet. I mean in the chat. If you are watching this and you're hypersensitive, don't watch this. Do not watch this. Oh no, wait, wrong link, wrong link, wrong link. Don't click on that. Membership is $5 a month. You have to be a channel member. Okay, you can start joining up. There's just rules here, okay? When you join, I need to know you're real, so I have to see your face. Your face is not going to be on stream. You can even just flash your camera for 5 seconds. But I need to see I'm speaking to a real person. Some of you are even using AI as your personalities. I just need to see you're a real person. And after that, I'm going to mute so that I can speak to you for 5 seconds so you guys aren't going to hear me. And then we're going to put the caller on. Nobody wants to join? That's really weird. So everybody wants to do the session, but nobody wants to call in. Is that how this is going to work? I mean, that's fine. I'm just going to keep playing. All right, we have somebody that wants to join. Give me a sec. I'm going to mute. Okay, give me a sec. Okay, so yeah, tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay, so yeah, I called you before, like a month ago, when you were doing like Squid Game. I'm a high school student, high school senior. I've been programming since August 2023, and I'm about to go to college, to UT Austin, and I just wanna like, I know that I'm like above like most people at my age, but I want to see like how well I'm doing and how well I'm doing in terms of like how I like when I go to college, I want to know what classes I feel like I won't need to take or whatever.
Okay, so I just preempted the session. Too much room sound. Sorry, the sound's bad. Is it the caller's sound is bad, or my sound is bad, or there's an echo? And I also, sorry, I preempted. Are you a channel member?
No.
Okay, I preempted this discussion with I don't want to have high school students because you guys, it's not the right time for you to be speaking to me
Yeah,
about
understood.
this. And then there's also going to be like really salty people in the comment section crying that you're a high school student and that it's not fair and that you're being abused by me verbally, mentally, physically, spiritually. And I'm just tired of reading those comments. So maybe another time when I'm feeling like I don't care. But at this point in time, I just want to get somebody in that like solid is preparing for something.
Yeah, I don't understand that.
All right, cool, man. You'll fall back and I'll have you on another time.
All right.
Cool. What should I call you? Because you have a weird name and
Sorry. You just call me Hunter.
okay. And then what's kind of your background? What are you looking to discuss and get out of today?
Yeah. So I just finished my bachelor's in CS. I'm going to do a 1 year's master's.
Okay.
I'm going to be a software engineering intern at a quant trading firm this summer.
Oh, nice.
And I'm looking to, it's like a mid-tier quant firm, and I'm looking to hopefully break into one of the top tier quant firms.
Okay.
So I guess, yeah, something along like typical lines of like your Collins, kind of see where I'm at.
Okay.
I'm taking like a lot of systems classes and hopefully been prepping on C++, so I at least have some knowledge.
Okay. Guys, how is his audio? Can you hear him? This call sounds the same as the previous call did. I think you're, oh, they're only hearing the call through my mic. Sorry, let me tune this a little.
Yeah.
Because it's saying desktop audio. He's too quiet. I can hear him perfectly. Let me see here. Can you speak a little now?
Hello, can you hear me?
Guys, is that okay or is that still bad? Okay, way better. Yeah, sounds better. Nice. Okay. Yeah, so what programming language do you use?
So previous internship I've done Python, but I'd say like the most I'm like most well versed in C++ at this point.
What C++?
So
I missed that. You said Python and then what?
C++ is what I've been using most recently, or trying to prep for.
Okay. And what would you say your degree of like professional C++ experience is?
And let me, in comparison to my peers, I mean maybe like an 8. In comparison to like an actual like quant dev, maybe like much lower, maybe like a 4.
Well, I'm going to
But
judge
I
you
guess-
against your peers because that's what
Okay.
that's what the firm that you applied for judged you against.
Fair enough.
So
yeah.
if 5 is average, 1 is trash, 10 is really good, and yeah, 5 is like I'm like my peers, 10 is I'm a god. You're saying you're 8.
Yeah, maybe 7 or 8, somewhere around there, I'd hope.
Okay, so you're close to god status.
Maybe if a few more months, I'd be god status.
Okay, and this is your first internship out of bachelor's.
It's my third internship. It's my first one in the quant industry.
Okay, but it's your first gig outside of school.
Yeah, it's like a normal summer internship because I'm going to do a master's afterwards. But yeah,
Got it.
effectively.
And what's your master's going to be in?
Also computer science, just different specialization.
Okay. Okay. I guess we can start simple. Like, what version of C++ do you use so I know what sort of questions to ask? And do you want this to be a C++ interview?
Yeah, I mean, I'm cool going anywhere with it, honestly. Maybe like OS or C++ is probably like where I'd want to take it.
Okay.
I've been mostly focusing on 17 and 20. Not that I know all the features within those versions, but I've been trying to, I guess, learn the nuances of them.
Okay. And so if I wanted to, what compiler do you use?
I use GCC, or G++.
Okay. What can you name me 1 or 2 other compilers that exist out there?
Yeah, like CLang or LLVM.
Okay. My next question for you, I'm gonna start kind of simple and I guess work my way up. So, let's start with auto. Do you know what auto is?
Yeah, it's type deduction.
Okay. Now, what's one benefit of using auto over using something else?
Yeah, so potentially if we have like a complicated return type, auto can make it a little bit simpler to read.
Okay.
I know also potentially like if we're using template programming,
Yeah.
if we don't know right away, because we don't know the parameters, we don't know what's going to be returned.
Yeah.
We could use auto and then have a trailing return type that's based on the parameters.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. You can like infer the return type based off the parameters.
Mhm.
Now, is there any point in time where auto can deduce undesired types?
Yeah, I believe it can. I was actually doing a question on your website about this earlier.
Okay.
Trying to see if I can recall it here. I know which answer choice I put. I think it was the wrong one. I think I put like the null pointer value, and I said that would deduce incorrectly. When was it? I don't recall exactly like the case when it would deduce incorrectly, but I know there are cases where it can happen.
Yeah, one of the one in the getcracked.io was vector bool. That's like the classic example.
Oh yeah, I do remember
Since
that.
it's
Okay.
a specialization that stores booleans in like a bit set instead of an actual bool.
Right. Yeah. I
To
remember
save
that.
space. Okay, let's talk about like I would say like simple character types. So how big is a char in C++?
It's just 1 byte.
And is it signed or unsigned?
Believe that's implementation defined.
Right. And so if I was to check if a char is a unsigned type, what library, or a signed type, what library might I use to do that check?
I believe there's something within the standard library. There's like I know there's like the is same type v.
Right.
But I know it's not the same as there's probably I don't know the exact function name, but I assume there's something within the standard library to check.
Yeah, that's that's one of the methods that I'd look at. Do you know what library it's contained in?
Oh, like the namespace? Not exactly, no.
Okay, it's in type traits. That's not as important. Nobody's gonna deduct points in an actual interview based off something like that, whether you know the exact name of the library. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about containers because that's something that usually comes up a lot in interviews. So my first question for you is, what's the difference between a vector and an array? This is probably one of the most basic questions.
Yeah, so I mean, in C++, like in all languages, is mainly the fact that vector is dynamically resizable.
Yeah.
Whereas an array, we would need to know the size at compile time.
Okay. And do I need to specify the size, or can the compiler deduce that for me?
We're talking about a vector or array.
An array.
When you say deduce, what do you mean?
So can I write std array and then just give it like curly brace 1 2 3 end curly brace?
I'd want to say there's a constructor for that. Yeah, I guess I would say yes. I don't know if the list initializer is deleted for like std array.
No, it's not deleted. It's not to do with constructors. It's more to do with in C++ 17, you can actually emit a lot of these types and the sizes for these sorts of arrays because there's template argument deduction. So you can just write std array, pass it, 1 2 3 in an initializer list, and the compiler will deduce the type and size for you, so you don't actually have to specify the exact, int and then 3, for example.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What's a trailing return type, and when might it be useful? Since we're talking about types a lot.
Yeah. So it's like the dash and then greater than sign. But essentially, as we mentioned earlier, you typically want to use that when you have when you're using like auto keyword, and you can use it to specify. I've mainly seen it used in template programming. For example, like we have like auto max TA TB, or I guess they could be different types. But essentially, like we don't know the type of max, but we want to be like explicit about it, or want to use it in a forward declaration. We can use a trailing return type to be like explicit about that, or like I said, if we wanted to have that in a forward declaration.
Okay. You mentioned max. If if you have max of A and B, okay? Let's say I have this program. Int x equals 5, int y equals 5. Then I find the maximum between the two. What is returned, x or y?
I guess that would depend exactly on how you implement it. Am I assuming here that like max is
This
implemented
is
like
stood
with the ternary?
max. Stood max.
Oh, stood max. Okay. I guess I don't know. I would imagine, like, of course, it would return, if they're equivalent, it would return, I would guess maybe the first one. I don't know the exact implementation of stood max, but my thought is here, typically it wouldn't matter if they're considered equivalent.
Yeah. So it in theory it wouldn't matter, but I think it will return the first one always. I might be wrong and it would return the second one, but it will return one of them, and that's what I was looking for you to answer. I was looking for the thought process there as opposed to whether or not it would be the first or would be the second. So now that we're speaking about kind of like functions and arguments and what's going to be returned where by who, if I was to write, foo, and I want to pass in the result of the call to the method A, and then the second parameter is the result of the call to method B, what order are these parameters evaluated in?
Yeah, I believe that's unspecified behavior because the evaluation of arguments, or the order of evaluation for arguments isn't defined.
Okay.
Or isn't specified, rather.
Yeah, that's right. Now, what if I had A and B like before, but for A, I had C that was called inside of A. So A needed to be seeded with the result of function C. Would that make a difference?
So just to clarify, so we have parameters are function A and function B, and function A takes another parameter of C.
Yes.
So I believe the only guarantees there is that so A would not be evaluated before C, because C would be fully evaluated before we start evaluating A, I believe.
But does the fact that C is now called in A mean that A needs to be called first?
Ooh, I don't think so.
Yeah, you're right. Doesn't need to. Okay. I want to talk about a little bit about the virtual keyword.
Sure.
So what does it do, and what is the implication on a class that has at least one virtual method?
Yeah, so I believe virtual keyword is like C++'s main mechanism for dynamic dispatch. Okay. So effectively we have like class shape, right? I don't know, let's say we want to have some size method. We want like some square class to be able to inherit that. Essentially we'd have this virtual method of size, which can be overridden by square, and that can be implemented to get the area of a square. And you mentioned like the implication of that is because, say for example, if we had like some pointer to shape like during our program and we didn't know when that was called, whether that would be a square or a circle or some other shape, we would do dynamic dispatch, and we'd have to follow a v pointer to access the v table and get the correct function lookup.
Okay. And so what implication does that have on the class? So I understand that it's used for dynamic dispatch, and at runtime it allows you to change the implementation of the method that's being called. And did you mention what implication it has? Sorry, I was messaging the chat.
Implication, well, I guess the fact that you have to follow the v pointer and it can't be determined at compile time.
Beyond that, so you mentioned there's a v table, right?
Yes.
So what does that table do to the class that it's added to?
So I believe it'll store like a hidden pointer, the v pointer, in the beginning of the class. So essentially all their parameters in the class would be offset by like 8 bytes in the 64-bit architecture.
So you're saying it'll add 8 bytes to the class?
Yes.
The size, yeah. Okay, that's what I was looking for. Now, while we're talking about the size of classes, if I have a class that has a single static variable, x, that's an integer, how much space, how big is that class?
I believe, yeah, so I believe that should be 1 byte just because it needs a distinct address. I guess there's like complexities in that. For example, like if you were to inherit that class, so I know something, for example, like std vector will inherit like an allocator class, but because of like empty base optimization, It doesn't actually need to like store any size for that.
Okay. So yeah, the static data member is stored it's not part of that class, it's stored outside of it.
Was that correct that it still takes one, like it's still...
Yeah, it would still take 1 byte because it has no other data.
Okay, yeah, good.
Yeah. Okay. Is it a good idea to have const members in a class?
Is it a good idea to have const members in a class?
Yeah. I'm getting into something like more practical C++ that's a little
Sure.
more open-ended because like a lot of the other stuff.
If I can think, let me just think about this for a second. I'm trying to think of a case where like it would be bad to have a const member.
Sure.
I'm thinking like potentially like why we'd have a const member. I think it could make sense. Like you said, like it's members. This is not like a global like const variable. My thought is there could be things that we know wouldn't change, and like they would only be initialized once. We wouldn't want them to change afterwards. So I could see like a use case where it would be useful. Maybe if like there's something you had in mind of like where it would be problematic, we could look at that.
Okay. That was not much of an answer. You said it can be useful sometimes and not useful in other times. So
Right. I guess I mean like I don't see a problem initially with it.
Okay. What implications might it have on moving the object?
Yeah, so like moving the object would mean that we'd essentially like transfer control of the const variable to another like instance of the class.
But can you do that if it's const? You know what I mean?
Right, it can't be moved as const.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, from the way you're phrasing the question, I'm gonna say no. I otherwise didn't initially know there was a problem with that though. I'd imagine maybe we could, if we're moving it, it could still like retain its constantness in the new instance.
No, it would need to occupy another location in memory, as part of the creation of the new object.
Mm-hmm.
So it can't be moved, but it can be copied. But it does have the implication that now you need to have a more specific, you need to pay more specific attention to that move operation and those details.
I see. Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Okay. Let me ask you about strings a little. I know I'm jumping all over the place, but I'm just trying to test the breadth of your knowledge, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, I'm good with whatever.
Let's say I have a number 0. And I have 2 methods. One that takes in a const char star, and one that takes in a short. And I pass the number 0 to both methods. Or sorry. I don't pass it to both. There's 2 methods. One takes in a const char star, and one takes in a short. And they're both named print. So they're overloads of each other, the method print. And all they do is they just print out whether it's a const char star or a number, and they just print it. And then I call print with the number 0. Which one gets called? The const char star one or the short one?
Sure. When you say number 0, you mean 32-bit integer 0?
Yeah.
So
I'm not defining 32-bit integer 0 first. I'm just typing the number 0 on my keyboard.
Right. Okay.
Print.
Yeah.
Bracket 0 bracket.
My thought here is I know like overload resolution will first try like a numeric promotion, which I don't think applies here because that would be like a narrowing conversion to short. My thought is there maybe be, I believe, like an ambiguous conversion when trying to convert to either a car pointer or to short. Although I mean, like intuitively, like my thought would be like it would go to like the short. But yeah, I guess I'm gonna say this is probably ambiguous.
It is ambiguous. That's right. Yeah. That's a good thought process there. It's ambiguous between the two, so the compiler actually errors.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's not sure which one is a better or more suitable conversion. What about this? Let's say I have a const char star, and I have 2 methods. One that takes in a void pointer, const void pointer, and one that takes in a string.
All right, is that the question essentially which would overload resolve to?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe. So I mentioned like the order of like overload resolution.
Yeah.
I believe here because car pointer is like able to convert to void pointer, it would choose that one over the conversion to standard string because that's a user-defined conversion, which takes place after like numeric conversions.
Yeah. That's right. Okay, I think I'm going to end it there. I mean, you said you're 8 out of 10 relative to your peers. Yeah, I would put you there.
No, I appreciate
So
that.
yeah, good job there. Are you in the U.S. or are you abroad?
I am in the U.S. Yes.
Okay. I would say good luck on your internship. Do you have any questions for me now that I've asked you a bunch?
Yeah, there was I guess there was one question. I was like scrolling through your Discord a while ago, and I saw
Oh,
you
you're in the
mentioned
Discord.
I am in the Discord.
Oh, okay, cool.
Also, yeah. Um, I saw there was some question essentially was like, to what depth should you really like learn a lot of these things? Because so I've been most recently focusing on C++ and kind of like revisiting some of my OS knowledge. But obviously, like there's a lot of other things that I know are tested for quant dev roles, such as like networking, some like Linux, just general like I guess you also talk about like design patterns and whatnot. And what I'm going through now is I'm very like going pretty in depth on I think C++ and OS, or trying to at least. But I know there's like areas I need to touch on as well before I get into interview processes. And I guess like because you can really just go forever into C++ or OS, right, and keep learning more like minute information. Like what do you think is like a good heuristic for when enough is enough and you should like start touching on more of like a breadth of topics as opposed to going more in depth into like super weird C++ behavior?
I would say that the approach should be before you start, especially when you're young, to go for breadth. And then based off the team you're put on, go for depth from there. Some teams use like a crazy template meta program that I look at and I'm like, what the hell's going on here? Right. So
Gotcha.
then I might pick up a book on templates. I picked up a 700-page book on templates. I'm only 100 pages in, but still like some of the stuff I'm learning new things every day. Right? I'm learning new things about how templates work in C++ every day, and those inspire a lot of the questions on Get Cracked. So what I would do is I would focus on a breadth of knowledge before you start, and then once you start, you can start honing in your skill set and figuring out, okay, I'm going to need to know a bit more about this part of C++ or that part of C++, because you're right. It's like it's massive. You'll never in your lifetime understand all of it.
Right. Gotcha. Okay, I think that makes sense. I guess it's kind of like somewhere along those lines. Because I haven't actually like worked in the industry yet. I'm curious, like, would you say, from your own experience, like the average coworker, say where you work, like could come on like one of your calls and like answer everything perfectly, or do you think they'd like trip up
No.
like, questions, or?
No, it depends on how much they want to invest in their own personal learning. I would say you're more cracked at C++ than a lot of people that I've met in the industry as well. But that also is highly biased as to like who you know and who you speak to and what your circle of friends and network is. Yeah, I would say there's definitely a lot of C++ gods in the industry, but a lot of people just want to get their job done and go home, and they have family and kids to do, or they have other hobbies they want to focus on. So there is a variation within quant too.
Okay, yeah, I think that makes sense. I appreciate your time and
Yeah.
have fun with it. So thank you.
Yeah, cool.
Awesome. Have a good one.
See ya. All right, I'm gonna get another person in. How many people are even watching this? Damn, we have 140 people here, and like the chat's not even moving. Is something wrong? Is the sound wrong? Am I doing something wrong if the chat's not even moving? Let me get another person in. Guys, no high schoolers. No high schoolers. Anybody else want to join? Somebody just joined. We were thinking about how cooked we are. This reminds me of Super Mario. This reminds me of Super Mario 64, man. That's why I like playing it. It's so nostalgic. It reminds me of Little Big Planet as well. What's the name of this game? It's called Astrobot. Yeah, this is a merge of 64, Sunshine Galaxy, and Little Big Planet, 100%. No. I was reading chat. I got distracted. Let me beat this boss, and then I'll get the next caller in. Yeah, I stopped playing WoW because I started having nightmares where I die in hardcore, and I'm like, this is getting bad. No, I thought I have to face it. Okay. Hello? Hello? Alright. Can't hear you, sorry. Hello? Hello?
Hey, what's up, Coding Dealers?
Hey, you have mad background noise, or can you...
1 second.
Are you like in the kitchen or something?
I'm in a Chinese restaurant.
Okay.
This might not work out. Maybe I'll call back later.
No, I can hear you clearly. That's fine. What's your question, or what do you want to do? Hello?
Sorry, I'm getting like lag from... Let me try. Okay. I work for Fang. I just thought about dropping in on a whim. I kind of saw you streaming.
Okay.
I have been interviewing for some JavaScript roles, so...
What
you
language,
want to ask me a couple questions?
What language do you primarily use?
Pretty much JavaScript and SQL.
For what? What do you build? Are you a full stack developer, or what are you?
I'm actually a solutions engineer.
What does that mean?
So, basically I work on like, I don't know how I'm going to be able to explain this without like doxing myself.
You're not the only person with that title.
I work on B2B integration. So I have a platform that many companies use, companies like Uber, stuff like that. They have to provide us structured data and basically make a couple of API calls. And we have to like, we have a lot of rules with like data quality and sanitation and so on. So we're kind of guiding partners through this process. But I've been interested in getting out of solutions engineering. So I got a couple of like regular like full stack interviews coming up. Hopefully I explained that well enough.
Okay. It sounds like you do data analysis.
Yeah, I'll do data analysis, but I'll like build like web apps within a partner portal that basically tell partners what they have to do. So like our partners have to go through like a 15-step process. Like they have to upload a SSH key.
I see.
They have to send us some feeds and so on. So one of the primary things I built there was basically imagine like an Angular application that just has like a bunch of steps you have to follow. And it turns green when they're done. So it's just kind of like an Angular app that makes SQL calls.
Okay.
It returns the result back to the partner.
Okay. Sounds legit. So what sort of questions do you want me to ask you?
Maybe some like JavaScript questions, maybe some Java questions. We do a bit of Java, but I just kind of want to see how I do. I don't know if you you know a lot about JavaScript. I know you do mostly like C++ stuff. Maybe it won't work out. There's a lot of tricky JavaScript interview questions that maybe I'll just have to ask you myself.
Yeah, I don't know many, and I don't want to embarrass myself asking about something that I'm unfamiliar with.
No worries. I'm a big fan of the show, though.
Oh, thanks.
I started tuning in maybe about a month ago. You started appearing in my recommendations.
Can I ask you one thing?
Yeah.
About JavaScript?
Go ahead.
Because somebody in chat asked about it. What's an event loop?
Well, the thing about JavaScript is that it's single-threaded, right? So basically, you can't really do more than one thing at one time. So a lot of the ways that you handle this is by putting things in the background. Eventually, there's some sort of callback that tells you, okay, I'm ready to run now. So I think that's kind of how the event loop works.
So it's like an asynchronous task scheduler.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay, makes sense to me. All right, I'll have somebody else call in.
Yeah, nice talking to you.
All right, see ya. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Good, good. Let me just close out of your stream.
Sounds good. Yeah, I just know you're real.
Yep.
Yeah. What? Tell me a bit about yourself first.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a freshman. Well, I guess I'm going into my second year. I want to go into quad mainly. I've taken like computer organization, taken like not operating system. It's called a system and networks. Yeah, those are like the two like big classes I've taken, and then data structures and algorithms.
And what language do you primarily use?
In high school, I mainly use like Python and stuff, but like over like the last like 5 months, I've been really going into like C++. Well, I read like the first like 20 chapters of Learn C++, and then right now I'm working on like a project in C++, and I've been watching your streams and stuff, so I'd say I probably like know more about C++ than Python, but I probably have more like practical knowledge in Python, but yeah.
Okay. Because I'm kind of the opposite. I have more practical knowledge in C++. So before I say what I want to say, what do you want to get out of this? You wanted like a mock interview, or what did you want? Did you have questions?
Yeah. Just sort of wanted to see where I'm at.
Okay. I don't know much about. I can't really ask you much about Python, and I'm not sure you're in the right place in terms of breadth of knowledge for me to ask you meaningful C++ questions. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'd say that's fair. My C++ knowledge is like, I was listening to like your first call in. I'd say I probably knew like maybe like 60-70%, not like everything. Like I remember it's like, oh, A calls B and B calls C, and then A also calls D, and like what's the order? I didn't really know that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But I know like obviously basically like heap allocated, stack allocated, things like that. I also like, you can ask me like, I don't know, like computer organization questions, like system network
Okay.
questions.
All right, we're gonna need to have a disclaimer for the people that are super soft that watch these videos. I need you to say that despite the outcome, you don't feel like I will emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually, or metaphysically abuse you.
Yeah, despite the outcome, I won't be emotionally or physically damaged.
Okay, and okay, yeah, let's start. So, my first question for you is related to something that I haven't asked yet, and that is smart pointers. Can you tell me what that is?
Yeah, so I couldn't like build you a smart pointer myself, but I know like the basic ones. So I know there's unique pointer. Unique pointer is kind of like you're giving that pointer complete ownership of an object. Then there's shared pointer, which is like you have like a shared block. So I guess I should really explain it. Like, let's say you have like a block of code, like your main function, right? You make a unique pointer. When it goes out of scope, if you don't like move it or like return it somewhere else, it'll just like die there. Shared pointer is it'll go out of scope. It'll get rid of itself in like the control block or like the block where it keeps track of like who has access to that shared pointer. And if no one has access to like that shared pointer anymore, then it'll remove it. But otherwise, if people still have access to it, it'll like still stay in scope or in memory.
Okay. Did you mention weak pointer?
Oh yeah, so weak pointer is sort of like it's like a non-owning ownership. So like let's say you have a share like I guess let's say you have a shared pointer, and you have a weak pointer, and like, the weak pointer doesn't have like ownership of the shared pointer. Like even when the unique pointer either goes out of scope, it won't like add or remove a reference because it's just sort of like a weak pointer.
What
Yeah.
sort of problem can a weak pointer help you solve?
Yeah, I think it was introduced to stop, or I don't really know how it was introduced, but I think it can stop like circular circular dependency issues where like a shared pointer has access to another. Like A has a shared pointer of B and B has a shared pointer of A, and then that's bad because then it'll just like even when they got a scope, they'll still have like they won't destroy each other.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Now, shared pointer you mentioned has a control block, right?
Yeah.
What does a control block contain?
Yeah, I think it's let me try to think. So it'll have a like who has access to it. So I'm trying to think how that would be stored. So it'll be like it would be something where it'd be like the amount of times that heap element is being like every time something like make shared or whatever, it'll add one more to the block. I don't actually know like what exactly it stores. Like I just know like kind of how it works.
It's the R word.
R word.
Re...
Oh, rye?
No.
Resolution?
Ref...
Oh, references?
Yeah, reference
Counter? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. How big is a shared pointer?
So it would have to have the actual pointer. Then it would have to have the control block. So I couldn't tell you the exact size. I just know it's like a decent amount of overhead. So like I know to like avoid shared pointers.
Let's see. This is where I get valuable key insights as to your performance, because I'm gonna now ask you to try to deduce how big it is. So
okay.
You mentioned it has two things: a red control block, and it has the pointer to the memory allocated for the object. It needs to point to, right?
Yeah.
So it has 2 pointers, right?
Yeah, so would it be 16 bytes then?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, nice.
Cool. What are some benefits of using make shared over newing up an object and passing it to the constructor?
Yeah, I actually searched this up yesterday. I couldn't find a good answer actually. I heard one dude was just like, yeah, it's just like general like modern C++ is like just don't use the word new. So it's like that's why you use make unique and make shared just because like at least you know you're doing it right. Just never use the word new.
That's not really a good. Who said that?
It was just like maybe I should have like researched the question more. It's just the first answer I saw on like Reddit or something.
Okay, Reddit, of course.
Yeah, classic.
Yeah. Okay, there's a couple. So the first one is if you call new. Let's say you need to pass in. Let's say you need to pass in 2 things to this object that you're creating.
Okay, yeah.
One is you need to call new to allocate an object. So you need to pass in a heap allocated object, and then you need to call in. Actually, no. Let's make it even simpler. Let's say I just need to call new for the object that I'm creating for that shared pointer.
Yeah.
If I'm just calling new, and there's an exception thrown, for example, a bad alloc exception because there's not enough memory on the system, or the system's not allocating you more memory for that call to new, then to honor that call, then you effectively have a memory leak because you have an exception that's thrown, and you have an object that's somehow been allocated in some weird state. Make shared has all the contraptions to prevent that from happening and clean it up. So bad alloc can still be thrown, but it'll make sure that whatever has been allocated in the internal.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense.
Another reason is you're less error prone to make mistakes for accidentally setting one shared pointer or having 2 shared pointers point to the same block that was allocated with new. Another one has to do with the allocation. So when you pass in new, you pass in one allocation for the item, and then you pass in another and then the shared pointer actually creates another allocation for the control block. But when I use make shared, it just does it in one allocation. It allocates the control block and the object right beside each other in memory.
I see. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it's more optimized. Yeah.
How big is the unique pointer?
I think it's just like there's no overhead, so it'd just be 1 pointer, so it's 8 bytes.
That's right. When was make unique added to C++?
Was it 11?
No, that's when make shared was added. This is the type of question I'd ask somebody if I don't want them to pass the interview.
Yeah, I just guessed 11 because that's when a lot of like the smart pointer stuff came out. If it wasn't 11, I guess I would say 17.
14.
14, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Let me think of another question. Let's move away from pointers and move towards like collections.
Okay.
So you probably already heard the previous caller talked about array and vector, right?
Yep.
So I'm not going to ask you the same thing. I'm going to ask you about an API that's commonly used on vector, and that is reserve. Do you know what reserve is?
Yeah. Well, when you alloc a vector, usually it'll have like a default, like will take like 2 bytes. But when you specifically call reserve, it'll reserve like that much capacity for you, which is not the same thing as length. It's just like when you do like push back and you push back like 100 elements, let's say, if you don't call reserve, it might be like having to expand it while you're still adding elements. But if you just know how many elements you want to add, you can just reserve that much space up front and then just push back to it.
Okay. Now, what happens to iterators? Let's say that I have an iterator to the last element in a vector.
Mm-hmm.
And then I decide that I want the vector to expand beyond its capacity.
Yeah, I think the iterator would get like avoided because it's pointing to like the old place, but when you realloc, well, because under the hood it'll just realloc the memory for you, so it'll point to like it'll be a different space in memory, so your old iterator gets like it's not valid anymore.
That's right, it gets invalidated. Let me ask you about the actual memory process because you seem to have like at least a decent grasp on it. So when we reallocate, we really do a couple of things. Okay, but there's 2 things that we do in particular. And I ask you this question because a very popular interview question is implement pushback for me.
Yeah.
So what are 2 things that are usually done? And I don't want to say for sure, but there's 2 things that come to mind when I'm resizing that array.
Tell me if this is like the right general path, I guess, but my thing would just be, so you call like I guess this would be in C, but you would call realloc and then you would call memcopy to copy over the old elements, and that's all I would think. And I guess like capacity equals capacity, a new capacity, but yeah.
Yeah, so you do 2 things. So you use an allocator to allocate a new free chunk of memory of the type of the object that you're storing. And then what you would do is you would then copy or move the existing object into that chunk of memory. Now, there's a very common, what's the right word? So let me take it a step back and then I'll merge the 2 questions here. So the first question is, how do I allocate an object on the heap in C++?
New.
Okay. Now, if I'm allocating space for an object, and then I want to create the object in that space, in that vector increasing capacity situation, right? So I have an array for a given object type that I got with std allocator. And now I want to move the object that already exists into that slot in memory. What's the right mechanism to do that?
All right, so let me just get this straight. So like you got like some memory from std allocator, which I think returns a pointer.
Yes.
And then and then you have another object that you want to move. So I mean, wouldn't you just use like basic like let's say you got A is equal to like std allocator, so A is like pointing to the start of the list. Then you just set A is equal to if you want to like set it at a specific location, you could use like brackets, like A, like hard brackets, and then whatever position. But if it's just the first one, you could just do A is equal to, and then the object.
You usually need to no, that's a good guess though. There's something called placement new. Have you heard about that?
No.
So this is heap allocated memory, and you want to create that object in that given memory address space. So what's usually done by convention is something called placement new. So you're building that object in that given slot of memory in whatever position it needs to go into.
Oh, okay. So it's sort of like in placeback, I think, right?
It's not in placeback. In placeback's different, but it's the alternative to new, because new does 2 things for you. New finds a block of memory that you're going to be creating the object in, and it constructs the object in it for you.
Mm-hmm.
But here, you already allocated the block, and you want to use placement new. You want to do the second step, not the first, because you've already done the first step. Placement new will allow you to specify the memory address that this object will be created in. So it's effectively doing almost like the indexing for you, because you give it the memory address. It's saying this is the index in this array that I'd like to construct this object on the heap, and then it creates it on that heap allocated memory.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Let's talk about exceptions. Exception safety. This is a very common interview problem in quant. So exception safety, what are the 4 exception safety categories?
I'm not gonna lie, exceptions are like chapter 27 in the Learn C++, and I just haven't gone there.
Okay, there's no point in
yeah.
asking you. Have you learned about L references and R value references?
Yeah.
There's others, there's GL references, PR references. I just want to focus on the basics for now.
Yeah, I think I know L and R value references.
Okay, what are they?
Yeah, so the way it was explained to me is that like L references is you can think of them as like a variable. So like if I have like int x is equal to 5, so x would be like your L value, and then I can make like a reference to x using int ampersand y is equal to x. And then R value references are like the double ampersand. Well, that's how you specify it's an R value reference instead of an L value reference. And that's like in your int x is equal to 5. Your 5 would be your R value because it's literally like the right hand value of the operation. And R values are like they can like they're kind of like they go away because they're not like L values like live after, but R values are just there, which means it's good for like move optimizations. Because like
we don't need to get too deep into it, and in an
cool.
interview
Yeah.
you don't have to either unless I ask you for it.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
All good. So something that's usually asked to in quant interviews is like, what version of C++ are you using? And then there's a follow-up to that. So what version are you using?
Yeah, I'm using 20.
Okay, can you name me one thing in 20 that was newly added?
This isn't like a very like good feature, I would say, but it was or actually no, I think I know a more useful feature. So if I have like a function max, I can do max auto A auto B, and then it's essentially just shorthand for like template type name U type name B and then TAUB. But it's just nice
I
shorthand.
think that's called constrained auto. I may be wrong with the naming convention. But yeah, you're effectively creating a template using auto, but without the template keyword.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. When do templates get resolved?
Compile time.
Okay. If you write a template but it's not used, what happens?
What do you mean read a template?
You write a template and it's not used.
The compiler should just not do anything because
What does that mean, not do anything?
well, yeah, like let's say we have a template with one template type T, and then like I call it with an int, then the compiler will go like write the same function, but with like replacing T with int. But if you never call it, then the compiler just wouldn't write it, right?
Wouldn't write what?
Well, like any like specialized versions of the template,
Yeah.
like yeah.
Sometimes templates are referred to as something that starts with a B, a word that starts with a B. And you don't need to get this if you don't like. I mean, it's an easy word, but like it's BL,
Yeah,
BL.
BL, never heard of it.
Blueprints.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Okay. Can a destructor throw an exception?
Yeah.
What happens in that case?
Well, I think it's like anything after the exception won't be called, which is like pretty bad because then you might have memory leaks.
Everything after the what will be what?
Well, you're saying like while the destructor is being called, like within the destructor, like if I wrote my own destructor for a class, an exception is thrown during the destructor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the destructor like won't finish running and it'll just like throw the exception.
I actually forget myself. I know what happens if a constructor throws an exception. I forget what happens if a destructor throws an exception.
Yeah, I think if a constructor
let me
threw it, the
check this.
destructor would be called, right?
Let me check this. I'm getting cracked with you. Um, maybe somebody in chat can answer that before I search it up. Okay, let me first pose a theory before I search it up. So let's say that we have a destructor and we have the member variables of a class. The member variables of a class are only destroyed after the destructor is done running. So I think if you throw an exception in the destructor, the member variables themselves are not destroyed. That's me trying to put 2 and 2 together, but I'm not sure. Let me see. Yeah. When an exception is thrown, you get stack unwinding. But then imagine you're unwinding the stack, and through unwinding a destructor of an object throws an exception. That's like, I'm not sure if is it undefined behavior? Destructor throws an... Okay, let me just search this up. Most likely calls to terminate. Yeah, it's weird because if imagine you throw an exception in destructor, stack unwinds, and while it's being unwound, another destructor throws an exception. What happens? Like what does the compiler have to do? Destructors are implicitly no except unless explicitly marked no except false. If a destructor throws an exception, the program immediately calls to terminate, ending execution. This applies even if no other exception is active as a default. Okay. If the destructor throws during stack unwinding while another exception, a double exception scenario occurs, which is irrecoverable and forces to terminate. Yeah. Okay. That sounds very familiar.
Okay.
Can a no except method throw an exception? This is a tricky question.
Yeah, I'm gonna say no, but I'm assuming the answer is yes somehow.
It can throw one, but it can throw, but as long as it's caught, then it's not an issue.
Okay, yeah, I see.
So you can throw it, but then if the method's caught in that same method, that's fine. What happens if it leaves the method?
Like it throws, but the method keeps running?
No, so it throws an exception, and that exception is not caught in that method, so it leaves it. And it's
Okay.
What do you think happens?
What do you mean by it happens? Like, wouldn't the exception just be thrown in, like, the method that calls the method?
It's a no except method, though.
Oh, it's a no except. Isn't that, like, illegal? Like, you can't?
So what happens? Yeah, you can't, so what happens?
It's a compiler error.
Well, exceptions are thrown at runtime, not at compile time. Unless you use static asserts and all that stuff. But
It's a runtime error, I guess?
Well, it is an error, but I'm asking what happens if I have a method marked as no except, and it throws an exception that leaves its scope.
Oh, yeah,
We already talked about how it might be handled.
So I'm assuming, like it'll exit the program, it'll, like, call the destructors of whatever is in scope, and then exit the program.
It'll call to terminate, so it'll just terminate the application without doing all the unwinding cleanup.
Oh, so it wouldn't clean up. Okay.
I mean, eventually the process memory that was allocated for it will be returned.
Yeah.
And that will be the quote-unquote cleanup. But yeah, it's not going to have a graceful stack unwinding process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, what happens if an exception is thrown in a constructor?
Yeah. I would think that the destructor would be called in all the stack, or all the member elements. Sorry.
Well, hold up. Why would a destructor be called if the constructor was not called? If the constructor has not finished running?
The constructor. Yeah. I guess maybe only the member variables would be, like, popped off. Then I guess. Like the member variables. Like, let's say you have, like, 2 vectors.
So what I'm asking is, let me just be a little clearer. If a exception is thrown in the constructor, is the destructor still called?
Sorry, I cut off for the last 5 seconds.
If an exception is thrown in the constructor, is the destructor called?
Mm-hmm. Is the destructor called? Yeah, probably. My original answer is yes, but now that I think about it, I actually don't think so, because, like, I'm thinking about it. If the object hasn't been allocated and you try and deallocate it, that's undefined behavior. So now I'm thinking no, actually.
Yeah, the answer is no.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna have somebody else on. I think you did pretty good for your level and age. So
Do you mind if I just get in a quick question or two?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was wondering why, like, I know you push like big for C++, which is why I've been like learning it quite a bit, but I was kind of like wondering what the big push was because I was doing like some research into like a lot of the roles. I was seeing like a lot of like Python, and it's like anything like super low level I saw was being done with like programmable FPGAs rather than like C++. And then like I was thinking it was like if it's something that has to be super like efficient, why wouldn't you just use like C, or then even like Rust is coming up. So I was wondering like what the big like deal was behind C++.
C++ has a hold on the industry. It's a language with like zero cost abstraction, meaning by writing it, you're not adding any overhead to what it would be if it was like machine code or assembly. It's the industry standard at the moment. Rust isn't that big. There's Python, but it's for less latency sensitive roles. You have full control, full power with C++. So yeah, it's just the time tested de facto standard for the industry.
Okay. Last question. I was just wondering like what the overlap, or if there is any overlap between like learning skills like these and getting internships like other companies like Fang or like whatnot. Because I don't really know how like widely used C++ is. Like I know of like game dev and like audio engineer, but I don't really know if that overlaps with like big web dev companies or things like that.
Well, a language is a tool to do something, and C++ is not the best tool for web dev, so the answer there is no. You're not going to find C++ at a web dev company. But it's used everywhere, honestly. I mean, in many industries. The brakes in your car are probably powered by some level of embedded C++ or C.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. That's all I had.
Okay. Let's get another person in. I want this to be more of a chill discussion. I'm kind of tired of grilling at the moment. Those are good calls, though. Hello.
Hello. Will you need to turn on my camera or?
No, you're fine.
Okay. Thanks so much for this. Sorry if I stutter. It's 3 a.m. for me, so.
3 a.m. Damn. Let's have a more chill discussion if it's 3 a.m. for you, though. I don't want to do an interview if possible.
Yeah, sure. That's fine.
So yeah, what question do you have for me?
So I'm a student, and I've been trying to apply at quant companies for like 2 years now. I've been at some FANG companies in the past. I have 3 internships. I'm going to do my 4th this summer. And I don't know, I'm doing really fine when I'm not applying to quant, but when I'm applying to quant, I'm always doing like shit, especially like at the end. I failed a lot of on-sites last fall. And I just wanted some advice to what to do in the upcoming fall, because I will not be a student anymore. I will need to apply for new graduate roles instead of internships. And I heard they're harder, but I don't know people that are actually working at quant and have started there without doing an internship beforehand. So I really don't know what to expect.
Where do you feel like you're failing, or where do companies say you're not doing well?
I mean, I'd say I'm getting nervous more than I should, and that affects my performance a lot. During my previous interviews, I'd say I failed a lot when I was asked about some more complex C++ questions, and I've been trying to focus on this. I'm currently reading C++ 17 in detail that you suggested, and I'm trying to get a bit more used to these types of questions where you are asked about some specific C++ version, because for me it's just a lot of features and I can't link them to a number in particular. So I was hoping to be able to learn like 17, 20, 23, 26 and so on.
Yeah. So you're not doing well at the parts where they're asking you for C++ questions, like C++ language questions.
Yeah, I'd say there's that, and probably I'm not that well on lead code, because I've been trying to focus more on my fundamentals, because I've been definitely slacking off too much. I was happy with my FANG internships during uni, and I didn't learn enough. So now I'd say I'm worse at lead code, but I'm better at just speaking about what I know. So when I'm actually asked to code, I usually don't do as better as I used
Do
to.
as well, yeah. Okay. Um, that's interesting. So you're getting the interviews, you're just not executing.
Yeah, I'm getting some interviews, and yeah, I'm usually failing like right at the end. Some companies they're not offering me interviews because they are because my CV doesn't have too much C++ in it. I'm trying to do some projects, but I don't really know what to do that would leverage modern C++ features. I was thinking maybe I could do my own stud hive implementation, but I don't know how much I can write about it on the resume to show that I have some clue about modern C++.
Yeah, I wouldn't spend my time doing that. If you're failing on the knowledge stuff, then that's what you should really be focusing on. And the best way is really books and then getcracked.io. So when I see people on YouTube comments or on Instagram or on TikTok saying nobody asks about knowledge questions, what do you have to say to them?
I'd say that's cap. Like I used to think about the same thing when I was only applying to like Google, Facebook, and all of those big name companies. But once I discovered the trading space and I actually started applying, I realized I was so wrong. There was so much stuff I didn't know, and I'm glad this happened because it made me stop being lazy in uni.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear that I'm vindicated there time and time again. Um, okay. What other questions do you have for me?
I guess really what to expect more from interviews that are for new graduates compared to interns.
Uh, to be frank, like, I don't know why people say they're harder. To me, they seem like they're actually quite similar. It's just fundamentals, effectively. Because what's a new grad? A new grad is somebody that did one more year of university. That's
Yeah,
what a
no,
new grad is, you know? So how much more can they expect you to know with one more year of university and where you're probably not taking classes that are super fundamental or critical? Like you're probably taking maybe some of the maybe more niche classes that might not be as relevant, you know? So like how much more can they really expect from you? Can they give you a 20% harder interview? Maybe, because you spent effectively, 1 out of 4 times more at school. So you spent, what I'm getting at is 25% of your time was spent in your last year. So is it reasonable to make the interview 10 to 20% harder? Sure. Is it reasonable to make the interview 40 times hard or 3 times harder? Probably not, and that's what a lot of people seem to think the interview is going to be like. Like it's some 3 times harder interview. And I just don't see it that way.
Okay. I'm glad to hear that. That means I guess I just need to keep on doing what I've been doing this time and
Yeah.
for the best. Can I get just one more question before I hop off?
Yeah.
Would you say that in interviews for new grads tend to be more about CS fundamentals or more about C++? I'm asking because I haven't done any C++ in university.
Oh, it's probably going to be a little more C++ plus C. C++
Okay.
C for you, yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate what you're doing. Like this industry is so secretive, and you're, to be honest, the only person I can look up to learn from this type of
Oh,
stuff.
thanks.
So
I
I really
appreciate
appreciate you so much, and I'll make sure to buy Get Cracked once I start my job.
Awesome, yeah. I mean, I think it'll help you prepare. So consider it during your preparation process, especially for the knowledge stuff. Because I'm adding new questions every day there, honestly. After my work, I just start adding questions, 2-3 questions here or there, and then I just kind of move up from there.
Yeah, I noticed. I'm doing them. I'm checking them every week or so to see what stuff is new.
Yeah, I made it mobile friendly too, so you can do them on on the way to work or on the way to school or in a bus or whatever.
Oh, that's great. I prefer PC though, to be honest.
Yeah, I do too, but some people like doing it on mobile. 30% of my traffic's on mobile, so I said, you know what, let's just make it friendly for them.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I really wish you the best with this platform because I really like it, and
Awesome.
it's field, but I'm also learning stuff.
Cool. All right, I'm gonna get another person on. Thanks.
First, thank you.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, yeah. What's up?
Sorry. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. Moose, thank you for becoming an intern. Yeah, what's up?
Yeah, so I wanted to ask like how important is the what do you say a project or anything for becoming an intern in second
Intern.
year?
Intern where?
In like quant companies like say Optiver or something.
They're most likely not going to look at you if you're a second year student. But you're saying, how do I prepare for my third year internship?
It's like my second year is over and in the starting of the third year.
Ah, okay. So you're saying, how do I
the-
stand out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, is it just like skill based, like like CP probability and all that, and like C++ knowledge or something else also?
I would say, don't worry about the math part, honestly. That should be the least of your worries. You should focus effectively on a lot of the C++ stuff, but in order to differentiate yourself, consider doing like open source projects or something that's more impressive than I just go to school, if you know what I mean. Does that make sense?
I mean,
Because like
how?
you can have good grades, that's totally fine, but how do you differentiate yourself? You want to show passion and interest, and then how do you show passion and interest? Well, you do things outside of school that other peers aren't doing.
Okay, yeah, but see, that's the thing, right? Like others aren't doing it because it's kind of tough, like to contribute to an open source. So.
I mean, find a project you're passionate about. I did that with Monero. I literally just got a notification that somebody replied to one of my PRs. So I'm going to take a look at that after I get off this call. Right? So, that's something that I would look at.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And like what's generally a good so competitive programming is like probably pretty important for the interns, right? So
I mean, it's probably important if you want to be super cracked at lead code.
okay.
But is it important for like
But-
on-the-job internship skills? No.
Oh, okay.
Why do you think it might be important for you as an intern? I just want, maybe I'm missing
Well,
something here.
I mean, so I'm in college, right? And like that's all we've been hearing. Like that's much of what I've heard that if you want to if you want to get the quant intern, you need to be pretty good at competitive programming. But I'm not really sure like at what point they're like, this guy is confirmed.
Sure,
Is
I
there
mean,
a-
like, that's what I said. If you want to be cracked at lead code, that's definitely going to be important. But I was under the impression that you think that on the job you're going to need to know competitive programming very well. And that's not the case.
Right,
Like, to
right.
get the job, it might make life easier for you. But on the job, it's not going to be important. Yeah, Monero, the
Right, okay.
cryptocurrency, yeah. Are there birds where you're at right now?
Sorry?
Are there birds outside? What's that
Oh,
sound?
sorry. Yeah,
Oh, it's okay.
it's 5 o'clock. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I guess like what's this thing on probability? So, like, oh, you said that math isn't important for the interview. Is that what you
Yeah, math is not
said?
important. Unless you're going for a trader role, but it doesn't sound like you're doing that.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Yep. Alright, see ya.
Yeah.
Looking for the last puzzle piece. Hello? Hello?
Oh,
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. What can I help you with?
Yeah, so I'm a third-year university student in Nepal.
Okay.
So yeah, I've been going through your channel. I watch a lot of your stuff, and I feel like, there are gaps in my knowledge. When you ask questions, I get some portions of them right, and some I just don't. So I was hoping you could suss out what those gaps are, so that I could work on them.
I'm done the for today for the mock interviews.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's just focus on like career guidance and stuff like that.
Sure, yeah, we can do that. So what question do you
Yeah.
have there?
Yeah, so I'm gonna tell you a little bit about myself. So I started out with cybersecurity. I wanted to be a hacker, and then I did a lot of CTFs. I even got like top 10 in my own country and stuff like that. And then I realized that building stuff was fun, so I switched to software development, and I've been doing that for 3-4 years. I did that before university. Right now, I work at the university as a software development lead. And going through your channel has made me realize that just projects aren't gonna do it. So I think I need to learn more and uh, like be good at lead code and stuff like that. So what would be the best resource? And I'm trying to find that space, I guess.
What do you mean that you're a software engineer for your university? Are you like a,
Yeah, right.
what does that
Yeah,
mean?
so our university has a lot of internal tools like attendance management, and we have an HR system for teachers,
Okay.
and we also have library and everything. So we actively develop software. We provide internship to students there. So my job is to just lead the team there. I make architectural decisions and code review, PR, stuff like that.
And this is a full-time job or
Yeah, so normally it would be a full-time job, but I only have to go in like a few hours. The developer's role, it's a full-time job, but the lead role, it's kind of, I could do it from home. I just have to make sure that the work gets done.
but you're still in school, you said? Like this isn't your full-time job or it is your full-time?
No, I'm a third-year university. I used to work remotely in Australia, but I quit.
Okay. Okay, and so you're asking how do you best do what?
Yeah, move to like larger companies and FANG and stuff like that. I'm not smart enough for quant. I went through a few questions and they're just I just couldn't
Okay.
get them. So I don't think I'm smart enough for quant, but yeah, just FANG stuff.
I'm not a pro at how to break into Fang.
Uh-huh.
For Fang, it's like a 90% lead code, honestly, as I understand.
Ah, man.
So
Yeah.
that's gonna be where you're gonna need to get cracked at.
Okay. Yeah.
Kind of whether you like it or not.
Okay, I'll definitely work on that. I do open source as well. Yeah.
I'm not sure if
Stuff
they
like
even
that.
value that. I mean, I would, but I don't know if they do. If that matters in their interview process. Just because it's so like standardized, that I don't know if they even value that. Like maybe your interviewer does, but they're like, well, I can't judge you on that, unfortunately.
Yeah. So okay, yeah, I guess this was wrong timing for me because I really wanted to, find the gaps in my knowledge. But
Somebody
yeah, hey,
said,
I just
somebody said to break in, you should check out solutions engineering. Maybe it's like your
Solus-
solutions
engineering.
engineering, yeah, to get your foot in the door.
Okay, I'll definitely take a look at that. Yeah, so, and last year I led a hackathon. So we organized a hackathon in my college, right? And at one point I was the event lead. At one point I had 57 volunteers working under me. And after that, I've been a president of another open source community as well. I'm a technical person. I have been building projects before I got to college. I didn't think I was a leader, but I think after leading people, I think that could be a potential door for me. So, like, can I break into the industry as a leader, or is that something I get after working a few years?
I mean,
Or
you're still in university,
yeah,
so why would they make you a team lead?
true. But then again, I do have the experience.
I mean, you have experience at a hackathon. I'm not trying to diminish your experience, but it's different than like a for-profit business enterprise where you have millions, potentially like tens of millions of customers, especially when you're talking about a FANG, right? There is just so much you don't know about their local tech stack. You're not going to walk in and expect to start leading a stack in a team that you don't know and that doesn't know you.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I was way in over my head with that.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to get another person on.
All right, yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Hello. Hi. Hey, how are you?
Good. How you doing, man?
Good, good. What question do you have for me?
Yeah. I'm just, I guess, kind of lost in terms of where I'm at. I guess I could just briefly explain, and maybe you have some ideas.
Sure.
So I'm about I would say 8 years deep in terms of like general IT work experience. A majority of the programming I've done is in Golang, and I thought it would be like a good niche to get into, but I find the garbage collector creates somewhat of an issue when I try to go to other positions like Java based or especially like C++. And then on the other side, Go is having these security issues with their the way they import things. So I don't have a degree. I studied math. I'm actually a couple classes short, but that's over in Brooklyn College, and I left New York. So, but I did like a math CS double kind of thing, but I didn't finish. However, I would say I have a lot of experience just in building software. And I guess the headline question would be if I learn C++ and learn it to the standard that you're talking about, do they make room for people like that, or is it just when a position's open, they look for the best candidate, like a normal job process?
Yeah, I think when a position's open, they're looking for the best candidate, and if you do have the skill set for it, then they're not going to discriminate against you for, coming from a Golang background. If anything, it adds a given degree of like depth to you, or a uniqueness to you, and that's how you should definitely spin it in an interview. Like, you don't go to the interview saying like, "Oh, I'm not as good because I came from Golang." You don't. No, I'm better because I have experience with the language that might be relevant and might not, but it come from like a different bring a different perspective.
Yeah, for sure. I fumbled really hard in college. There was like this trading firm called River or something. I think it has River in its name.
Okay, we don't have to name names if we don't remember or don't want to. But okay, it had something.
Right.
No, it's fine. I'm not against it, but like, I don't want to get hung up on the name, is what I'm saying.
Oh, sure, yeah. But I listed C and Go, and I had been using Go for a couple of years. It was like 2019, and they needed like trade platform support, and they asked me some simple questions, and I just failed. So I've had opportunities. I don't want to act like, oh, I haven't had that one opportunity.
I'm sorry, I'm kind of confused. You cut off. So you're saying you had opportunities, but you just kind of fumbled?
Yeah, I fumbled hard because I didn't realize how high the bar was for software until about 2022, I would say 2023. So it's kind of a recent revelation.
Okay. And so do you have any other question for me?
Yeah, I guess it was mainly the question I was asked earlier about Rust, but I guess you would side with C++ has a bright future opposed to some of the other things that are said on LinkedIn and whatnot.
Yeah, I would say that.
Okay, because I was watching this Brazilian guy that does analysis of the assembly between Rust and C++, and it seems like that the optimization levels of Rust that are used in industry don't really. It's like the examples that some people use are more like high optimization levels that aren't industry standard. But do you can you say like what level of optimization do you use like on a daily basis or when you do work?
What do you mean by that? Like the compiler does a lot of the heavy lifting for optimization comes from the compiler. Now it's my job as a software engineer to understand how does the software that I write interact with the hardware. So because let's say I'm iterating over an array, a 2D array. Should I iterate over column order or row order? Right. Well, cache lines are organized in rows, right? So you want to iterate over row order, for example. It's just something simple like that might be a small consideration. It's not a major consideration, but still, like, I'm thinking about you think about small things like what are the implications of making or adding a virtual function to your class? Do you need it? How can you get around it if you don't want to? How do you benchmark that? Where would you go? Do I want to introduce this piece of code in a hot path? Do I not want to? So it just gets you thinking a lot more about the code that you write.
Is meta programming a big deal in C++? Like, do you have to know templating and like you were talking about earlier?
You have to know templates? Do you have to know meta programming? Probably not. It depends on the team you're applying for.
So the like your defines and whatnot, do you have some sort of preference on, do you use if and def or do you just use define? Do you have any input on that?
Like the macro define?
Yeah, like your macro meta programming. I don't know if they call it that, but just your macro programming.
On my team, if I'm using define, I'm probably not doing the right thing.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah. Like
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, sorry, man. What were you saying?
No, that was it. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I guess I'll use your website and
Yeah, use it to
'cause
supplement
I'm
your
current-
learning. Use it to supplement your learning.
Can am I able to work from the Philippines? Is there going to be some sort of?
No.
That's where I live currently.
No,
Okay.
unfortunately not. I would say no in 99% of cases.
So it's
Especially if
all
you're new to the
local-
industry.
Sure. Is the computer going to be on site then?
What do you mean by that?
The workstation.
Yeah,
like
it will
the
be on
computer
site. Yeah.
or- Okay, so they're super protective.
Not even
of
being
everything.
protective. They just prefer you work there. Because they're like kind of like old school traditional finance, you know?
Sure.
So they just
Yeah, that
just
makes sense.
would rather you be there, yeah.
Is blockchain gonna be? I mean, that's just a solution looking for a problem, I guess. So is that? Because I saw Plutus, that Haskell language that Ada uses, but I mean, is finance moving towards that at all, or is it just staying within the mainframe systems?
It's in the old paradigm.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna get another
Cool.
caller if that's okay.
Yeah, bro, no problem. Man.
Alright, see ya.
See ya.
Alright, one more person. Actually two more.
Hey CJ,
Hey,
how are you?
good.
I'm fine. Just wanted, well, it's not a question, it's a comment. Content like really helped me to land this position, so I arrived back at my hotel and I saw like, oh, he's live. I'm going to call him and say thank you.
Oh, nice. Is this like a quant position?
No, it's not. It's more like robotic GPU stuff, but
Oh.
not necessarily like. But I realized that like during the interview process, like there was a lot of like questions about like like a lot of the things that like are on GetCracked, like not necessarily like all of it, but it was such a, especially the last position I had was like for such a long time, like to review these kind of concept, like all in one place, definitely worth the 15 or 20 bucks for the month I subscribed.
Awesome. No, that's good to hear. It's good to hear that I have like people that are like, wow, this really worked for me.
So yeah, just wanted to say thank you, and I'm gonna go sleep now because I'm quite knackered.
Alright, sounds good. Cool.
Thank you. Bye.
No problem. That was nice to hear. Alright, last caller, what's up? Is there a way to get a remote job as a quant dev? I just told the other guy no, so you're just asking the same question.
Yo.
Hey.
What's up?
Hey.
Sorry, were you just talking to chat or?
I was talking to chat, yeah, what's up?
Yeah, so just wanted to ask you first a personal question, not too personal, but like, did you end up going to HK for your new gig or no?
I already mentioned that in the previous stream, I talked about it.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, no worries. Sorry, a bit
No,
behind.
it's
I
okay.
guess. I was gonna ask you, what do you think is the most overrated skill in software engineering today, specifically in the quant?
Oh, that's a good question, because we usually talk about underrated stuff.
Yeah.
Most overrated skill. I'm actually curious what chat has to say. Let me ideate, and I want to see what chat has to say. I mean, okay, yeah, that's kind of a no-brainer. Like, lead code is overrated skill. I've never written a binary search from scratch in my life. If I find somebody using a binary search instead of lower bound or upper bound or stood binary search, then that's like an issue. CRUD, DSA. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what's the most overrated skill. I think the most underrated is communication. I don't think people know
So
how to give.
non-technical in a way,
What's
but
up?
still technical in a way, right?
Yeah, it's still technical, like how to communicate, how to properly give feedback and advice and all that jazz. I don't think enough people know how to do that or do that properly.
Someone said learning too many languages. Do you think that's like that actually is like a valid one? Because like you'd rather someone who's like domain specific, or have you seen like engineers that are like, you know multiple languages but might not be specialized?
Yeah, I think we're speaking to that. Probably the most overrated skill is machine learning, in my opinion. It sounds weird because that's the world we're moving into. But every time I hear somebody talking about machine learning, it's like I know how to use PyTorch. Like,
right.
is that
It's
really,
not really
machine learning, or is that
Yeah.
you know how to use a library that somebody else wrote to abstract 99% of the difficulty away, so that you can say I know machine learning and I'm a machine learning engineer? You know what I mean?
Yeah, so
I
that
guess
would
that's not
probably fall under the most like fake skill or not.
Yeah,
actually.
it's like kind of like a fake skill, like the thinnest veil of. It's like the thinnest layer between you. It's just like this thinnest layer that can break so easily when I say, okay, well, tell me about how this actually works. Well, it's like, I don't know, I just know the API call. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so I'll follow up with this. Like, what's one piece of advice you like consistently give junior devs and they ignore?
To not use ChatGPT. And a lot of them don't know how to use it properly. Like, you can use it if you'd like to test yourself or quiz yourself, but you shouldn't be using ChatGPT to learn about a subject that you don't know, because it's not going to teach you the necessary skills you need to use the knowledge that it gives you effectively.
And you've seen this on the job, like people have used it on the job.
I think using it on the job is fine if you're using it, for example, like I gave a classic example I gave is like I want to write a regex. So I say,
Right.
okay, here's
Yeah,
a string, I want it to
you're
be transformed to this. Like, I can go and read all the rules about regex, but I'll definitely forget them within the next 2 minutes.
It's basically Google Translate.
It's basically Google Translator, exactly. So I've never seen one person that's given me a regex string off the top of their head. Doesn't matter how cracked they are, you know. So
would that be like cracked enough to be like, all right, maybe we should hire this guy. He knows how to regex everything.
I mean, like it's kind of cool, but like it's not job hire worthy, just for that skill per se. But yeah, I wanted to say something about ChatGPT. I mean, I've spoken to so many people that have done private consultations with me that have said things like, well, I had an internship at Microsoft and I had no idea. I was just using ChatGPT the whole time. And I'm like, did you get a return offer? They're like, no. Well, obviously no, because you didn't know what you were doing. And you got some other dude that knew what he was doing at the end of the internship to just do it for you.
And your default was to refer to like some LLM instead of like, thinking for yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. So in the age of like AI assisted coding, like what would separate a good developer from a great one?
I think one thing that really separates is like initiative. So the ability to take on new work when you don't have much work to do. And the ability to like, oh, this one's big, like debug the code that you've written or the code that somebody else has written. Because a really good test to see whether somebody knows what they're doing or knows how to code well is to see how quickly they can read out another person's code, understand it, and then solve problems related to it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because most people are just used to saying, "Hey, ChatGPT, here's a piece of code. What's wrong with it?" And they don't think. You know what I mean?
Do you think that like that's just even something that you can just refer to like, someone's GitHub or GitLab, like, commit history, stuff like that? Or are you saying someone who really just takes initiative in terms of like refactoring old models or code?
Where they see a problem, like they see a problem, even if it's in their own code, and then they fix it. So I'll give you a classic example. There was this person that I was interviewing, and they had this const method in C++, and a const method can't mutate member variables of that class instance. So they had a map as an instance variable, and they were calling, instead of calling like @ they were calling the index operator, so the 2 square brackets. And it wasn't working, it was failing to compile. The reason it was failing to compile is because that is a non-const method, and you can't call a non-const method inside of a const method. And so they compiled it, it failed, they saw the error, and they were like, well, okay, and I told them, well, if it's not working, debug it. You know, go on Google, you have all of Google at your disposal, search up, find why this is not working. And he read the documentation, it was right in front of his eyes, and he just couldn't put 2 and 2 together. So
yeah. I mean, I feel like there's like this dilemma, I think, with and this just personally, I've noticed it even from like junior devs that we may hire, is like they have sometimes a lack of just taking a step back, and just like acting as if like speed's the most important thing, you know?
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's embarrassing. Like I've gone through like coding interviews with people at the at the place I work at, and when we're trying to hire them, they don't even know how to like create an instance of a class, which is just like, oh my god. Like,
they don't know how to what?
Create, because we work with Python, right? We're not using C++, but they don't know how to create an instance of a class.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and that's just like a little embarrassing.
Yeah. And
you're like, okay, well, you know like what a class is, right? And then, yeah, you just have to go back to the fundamentals. Can you like, if you like, because you reviewed like hundreds of resumes, like what's one mistake that instantly like just stands out to you when you read these resumes? Because maybe it's like up to us or me, like, or like the company I work for, to really look out for these mistakes a lot quicker or sooner before.
I guess it's not a mistake, but if you're targeting quant specifically, there are just so many resumes that are very quant focused. Not even that they have quant experience, they're just phrased in ways using skills that are very quant specific. So if you're coming from a web dev background and you don't phrase your experience as a sort of experience a quant firm would be interested in, it's most likely not going to happen.
I see.
Yeah.
But don't you think there's some people who can tailor like their resume to the job, but also
that's what you're supposed to. You're supposed to tailor the resume to the job, is what I'm getting at.
I get that, but there's also people who do that aren't actually qualified for the job, right?
Yeah, that's true. And that's my role to then worry about screening them and properly.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it's just I don't know. Maybe I'm a little. I don't know. I appreciate honesty. Like if someone doesn't have experience in the industry, but they're looking for experience in the industry, and like their resume stands out because they have like a specialized experience in something else that might be adjacent to the industry. I think it's open for discussion.
Yeah. Because listen, you want to sell yourself as a candidate, right?
Right.
Especially for the.
I think as a junior role, it makes more sense to kind of sell yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
But someone who might be more senior in, like, let's say a different domain that, like, you could see have, some, I don't know, like, let's say some guy from Google who's working on, I don't know, Gmail, right? For example, Gmail, the back end of Gmail or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wanted to just go into, like, quant dev, right? And he was, like, trying to get, like, a mid-level role. But he's never deal with finance or anything like that. I don't know if it's like, okay, we're not going to hire, like we're not even going to consider this guy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'll leave it at there for now.
All right.
Thanks for calling in, though.
No worries.
Alrighty. All right, guys, I'm a bit tired. So I'm going to... he's not boring. He's a nice person, but I don't like it being a 20 questions thing where somebody just asks me 20 questions. I'm going to go. Enjoy your evening, guys. Chill stream. Some good calls. I'll probably post 1 or 2 of them later this week. Thanks for watching. Hopefully people learned something. Everybody was really quiet, so I think you guys learned something. Getcracked.io, 200 plus free questions. If you want to get cracked, go there. And make sure to like, subscribe on the way out. Consider becoming a member. You get the entire VOD uncut for free if you're an intern or above. Thanks for watching, guys. Cheers.